The awakening. Humanity's dormant power stirs. The vast expanse of space stretched out before Captain Alina Reyes as she stood on the bridge of the Earth Force ship Defiant. Her dark eyes scanned the starfield, searching for any sign of movement. For decades, humanity had maintained a quiet presence on the fringes of known space, content to explore and expand at their own pace. But now, something had changed. Captain, her first officer, Commander Jack Chen, called out, "We're picking up unusual energy signatures at the edge of the Orion sector." Alina's brow furrowed. The Orion sector was the furthest reach of human-controlled space, a buffer zone between Earth's colonies and the territories of the Galactic Council. "Show me," she ordered, striding to the main view screen. The display flickered to life, revealing a cluster of pulsing red dots moving in formation. Alina's breath caught in her throat. She'd seen those energy patterns before, in old war footage from the last time humanity had clashed with the Council. "It can't be," she murmured. "They wouldn't dare." But the evidence was undeniable. The Galactic Council, in all its arrogance, was pushing into human space once again. Alina's mind raced. For years, Earth had maintained the facade of a quiet, complacent species. They had let the Council believe that humanity had grown soft, content with their small patch of the galaxy. It had been a carefully orchestrated deception, designed to lull their potential enemies into a false sense of security. "Send an encoded burst transmission to EarthCom," Alina ordered. "Authorization Omega-7 Delta." The sleeping giant stirs. As her communications officer rushed to comply, Alina allowed herself a grim smile. The Council had forgotten the lessons of the past, but humanity had not. They had spent decades preparing for this moment, building in secret, training in the shadows. Across human space, hidden shipyards began to hum with activity. Cloaked stations emerged from asteroid fields and nebula. A vast network of defenses, invisible to the Council's probing scans, came to life. On Earth, in a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Marcus Holt received Alina's transmission. His weathered face set in determination as he activated the global defense grid. "Alert all commands," he growled. "Operation Phantom Sentinel is now active." In cities and colonies across a dozen worlds, men and women who had lived ordinary lives felt the call. They were the sleeper agents, the hidden warriors who had trained in secret for years. Now, they shed their civilian identities and stepped into roles they had been prepared for since childhood. On Mars, Dr. Aisha Okafor put aside her research on terraforming and accessed a hidden compartment in her lab. Inside lay advanced weapon designs, the fruits of years of clandestine development. With steady hands, she began the process of bringing these theoretical weapons to life. In the asteroid belt, miner John Takahashi received a coded message on a device he'd kept hidden for a decade. Without a word to his coworkers, he made his way to a nondescript storage unit. Inside was a state-of-the-art fighter, its systems more advanced than anything the Council had ever encountered. On Europa, beneath the icy surface, Admiral Zaravella stood before a holographic display of the galaxy. Red lights blinked, indicating the Council's encroachment. Blue lights, representing humanity's hidden assets, began to pulse in response. She allowed herself a moment of pride. The plan she had helped craft was unfolding flawlessly. "They think us weak," she murmured to her assembled staff. "They believe we have forgotten how to fight. But we have not been idle. We have not been complacent. We have been waiting." Back on the Defiant, Alina watched as reports flooded in from across human space. The sleeping giant was awakening, and the Council had no idea of the force they were about to face. "Orders, Captain," Commander Chen asked, his voice tight with anticipation. Alina's eyes hardened. "Set course for the Orion sector. Stealth systems at maximum. We'll observe their movements and gather intel. But make no mistake, we are now on a war footing." As the Defiant slipped silently through space, Alina couldn't help but feel a mix of dread and excitement. The Council had forgotten humanity's strength, forgotten the tenacity and ingenuity that had allowed a young species to stand against the galaxy's oldest power. Now, they would be reminded. And this time, humanity would not simply defend. This time, they would reshape the very foundations of galactic society. The awakening had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Hidden Fleet. Earth's secret armada emerges. Deep within the Kuiper Belt, far beyond the reach of even the most advanced Galactic Council sensors, a massive structure slowly stirred to life. For decades, it had drifted silently, its existence known only to a select few. Now, as the call to arms echoed across human space, the Perseus station began to pulse with activity. Commander Liam O'Neill stood at the heart of the command center, his piercing blue eyes fixed on the holographic display before him. All around, personnel moved with practiced efficiency, their actions honed by years of secret drills and simulations. Status report. Liam barked, his Irish lilt carrying an edge of steel. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Commander Maiwang, responded crisply. All systems are green, sir. The fleet is reporting ready status across the board. Liam nodded, a grim smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Then it's time to show the galaxy what humanity has been up to all these years. With a series of commands, the massive hangar doors of Perseus Station began to open. From the cavernous space emerged ships unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever encountered. Sleek and deadly, they moved with an almost organic grace, their hulls shimmering with adaptive camouflage technology. The flagship of this hidden armada glided forward. The HSS Nemesis, a vessel that represented the pinnacle of human engineering and ingenuity. At its helm stood Admiral Cara Valdez, a woman whose tactical brilliance was matched only by her fierce determination. All ships, form up. Cara's voice rang out across the fleet's secure channels. Operation Shadow Strike is now in effect. Remember your training. Remember why we fight. The Council fought us beaten, fought us tamed. It's time to remind them of the fire that burns in human hearts. As the fleet moved into formation, Liam couldn't help but marvel at the sight. Each ship was a masterpiece of human innovation. The destroyers, swift and agile, armed with gravity manipulation weapons that could tear enemy vessels apart at the molecular level. The carriers housing squadrons of fighters that could outmaneuver anything in known space, and the support ships equipped with technology that could repair damage in minutes, not hours. But it wasn't just the technology that made this fleet formidable. It was the people. Every crew member had been chosen for their skills, their adaptability, and their unwavering commitment to humanity's cause. They had trained in secret for years, honing their abilities and pushing the boundaries of what was possible. As the fleet prepared to jump to the front lines, Liam's mind wandered to the years of preparation that had led to this moment. He remembered the day, nearly 2 decades ago, when he had been approached by a nondescript man in a Dublin pub. The offer that had been made, the glimpse into a world hidden from most of humanity, the choice to leave everything behind and dedicate his life to preparing for this day. He thought of the countless others like him, the brilliant scientists who had worked tirelessly in hidden labs, developing technologies that would make even the most advanced council ships look primitive. The strategists who had spent years analyzing every scrap of data on council tactics, devising counters to their every move. The soldiers and pilots who had trained day and night, pushing themselves to the absolute limits of human endurance. All of it had been for this moment, the moment when humanity would reveal its true strength to a galaxy that had dismissed them. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Admiral Valdez gave the order. All ships, prepare for quantum jump. Our first target is the Council's forward base in the Orion sector. Let's remind them why they feared us in the first place. In perfect synchronization, the fleet engaged their quantum drives. Space itself seemed to bend and fold around them as they leaped across vast distances in the blink of an eye. The technology, reverse-engineered from captured council ships and vastly improved upon, would give humanity a crucial edge in the coming conflict. As they emerged from quantum space on the outskirts of the Orion sector, The fleet immediately went into stealth mode. Their adaptive camouflage technology, combined with advanced sensor jamming systems, made them virtually invisible to Council detection. Admiral Valdez's voice crackled over the comm once more. "Remember, people, this is not just about defending our territory. This is about reshaping the balance of power in the galaxy. The Council has ruled unopposed for too long, imposing their will on younger species. Today, we begin to change that." Across the fleet, crews readied themselves for battle. In the fighter bays, pilots climbed into their craft, each one a marvel of human engineering. These weren't just machines. They were extensions of the pilots themselves, neural interfaces allowing for reaction times that would seem impossible to outside observers. On the Nemesis, Weapons Officer Lieutenant Zara Chen ran final checks on the ship's main armament. The quantum disruptor cannon, a weapon that could literally unmake matter at the subatomic level, hummed with barely contained power. It was a weapon of last resort, one that represented both the pinnacle of human scientific achievement and the terrible necessities of war. As the fleet moved silently towards their target, Liam felt a mix of emotions: pride in what humanity had accomplished, determination to see their plan through, and a touch of sadness for the conflict to come. But mostly, he felt a sense of righteous anger. The Council had pushed them to this, had forced humanity to reveal its hand. Now they would learn the cost of their arrogance. They would learn that humanity was not to be underestimated, not to be dismissed. They would learn that the spirit that had driven humans to reach for the stars had not dimmed, but had only grown stronger in the face of adversity. As the Council's forward base came into view, Admiral Valdez gave one final order: "All ships, weapons hot. Prepare to decloak on my mark. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do." In that moment, as the hidden fleet prepared to reveal itself, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The Galactic Council was about to receive a stark reminder of humanity's strength, and nothing would ever be the same again. The hidden fleet was no longer hidden. The time for secrecy was over. Now it was time for action. First contact. The initial clash. The Galactic Council's forward base in the Orion sector was a hive of activity. Massive ships docked and undocked in a carefully choreographed dance, their hulls gleaming in the light of the nearby star. Council officials moved about with an air of supreme confidence, certain in their dominance of this region of space. None of them noticed the slight shimmer in the void, the almost imperceptible distortion that heralded the arrival of humanity's hidden fleet. On the bridge of the HSS Nemesis, Admiral Cara Valdez's eyes narrowed as she surveyed the Council's forces. "They've certainly made themselves at home," she muttered. Then, her voice rising with authority, she gave the order that would change the course of galactic history. "All ships, decloak and engage. Operation Shadow Strike begins now." In an instant, the void erupted with activity. Human ships materialized seemingly out of nowhere, their stealth systems disengaging to reveal a force that dwarfed the Council's forward base. For a moment, there was stunned silence on both sides. Then, chaos erupted. The Council's command channels exploded with panicked chatter. "Unknown fleet detected. How did they get so close? By the ancestors, it's the humans." Before the Council forces could organize a response, the human fleet struck. Fighters poured from the carriers, their neural-linked pilots moving with impossible speed and precision. Destroyers unleashed salvos of gravity manipulation weapons, warping space itself to tear Council ships apart. At the heart of the human formation, the Nemesis brought its main weapon to bear. The quantum disruptor cannon fired, a beam of pure destruction lancing out to strike the Council's command station. For a moment, the massive structure seemed untouched. Then, it simply ceased to exist, its very atoms unraveled by the power of the human weapon. On a Council battlecruiser, Supreme Commander Zexlor of the Kelvoros species stared in disbelief at the destruction unfolding before him. "Impossible," he whispered, his 4 eyes wide with shock. The humans were supposed to be weak, complacent. His second in command, a towering Nardwual named Krita, growled in frustration. "We underestimated them. Sir, these are not the same humans we faced decades ago. Their technology, their tactics, they'd surpassed us." Zexlor's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Send out the call. We need reinforcements. All available Council forces are to converge on this location immediately." But even as the distress call went out, Zexlor knew it might be too late. The humans had achieved complete tactical surprise, and they were pressing their advantage with ruthless efficiency. Back on the Nemesis, Admiral Valdez watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. "Target their communication relays," she ordered. "We can't let them call for help." Lieutenant Chen's fingers danced over her console. Targeting solutions locked. Admiral. Firing. Precision strikes from the human fleet took out the Council's long-range communication arrays, isolating the battle from the rest of Galactic Council space. The trap was sprung, and the Council forces were alone. As the battle raged, individual acts of heroism and ingenuity played out across the battlefield. On the destroyer HS Thunderchild, Captain Aisha Rahman found her ship surrounded by 3 Council cruisers. Rather than retreat, she ordered her crew to execute a maneuver they had practiced countless times in simulation, but never in real combat. "Initiate the Mobius Gambit," she called out. The Thunderchild's engines flared, and the ship began to move in a complex pattern that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The Council ships, their targeting systems confused by the human vessel's impossible trajectory, fired and missed. In the chaos, the Thunderchild struck, its weapons finding vulnerable points in the enemy ship's defenses. In the fighter squadrons, Wing Commander Jason Chen led his pilots in a series of daring attacks on the Council's largest battleships. The neural interfaces of their craft allowed them to react faster than any organic pilot could, turning the space around the massive Council vessels into a deadly dance of laser fire and explosions. "Remember your training." Jason's voice rang out over the squadron channel. "They may have numbers, but we have the element of surprise and superior tech. Make every shot count." As the battle progressed, it became clear that the Council forces were outmatched. Their ships, once considered the pinnacle of galactic engineering, were being systematically dismantled by human weapons they couldn't even begin to understand. On his battlecruiser, Supreme Commander Zexlor watched in horror as his fleet was decimated. How? He demanded of no one in particular. How did they advance so far without our knowledge? The answer, of course, was decades of secret preparation, of humanity's unwavering determination to never again be at the mercy of an alien power. But Zexlor couldn't know this. All he knew was that the mighty Galactic Council, which had stood unchallenged for millennia, was facing a threat unlike any it had ever encountered. As the last of the Council's major combat vessels fell to the human assault, Admiral Valdez opened a channel to the remaining enemy ships. Her face appeared on view screens across the battered Council fleet, her expression stern but not unsympathetic. "This is Admiral Caravaldez of the Human Defense Force. Your fleet is destroyed. Your base is gone. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly under the laws of war. Continue to fight, and you will be destroyed. The choice is yours." On his ship, Zexlor slumped in his command chair. The choice was clear, even if it went against everything he had been taught about the Council's supremacy. "Send the surrender signal," he said, his voice hollow. "There's no point in further bloodshed." As the remaining Council ships powered down their weapons, a cheer went up across the human fleet. They had won their first major engagement, and the cost to the enemy had been catastrophic. But even as the human crews celebrated, their leaders knew that this was only the beginning. The Council would not take this defeat lightly. They would regroup, they would analyze, and they would come back in force. Admiral Valdez's voice cut through the celebrations. "All ships, begin recovery operations. I want every piece of Council tech we can salvage. We've won the battle, but the war is just beginning." As the human fleet secured their victory, news of the engagement was already spreading across Council space. The impossible had happened. Humanity, The species they had dismissed as weak and primitive had struck a devastating blow against the Galactic Council. Across 100 worlds, Council leaders scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were called, fleets were mobilized. But in the back of every mind was a chilling thought. If the humans could do this once, what else were they capable of? The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The age of Council dominance was over. A new era had begun. And at its heart stood humanity, no longer content to be ignored or oppressed. The first clash had ended in human victory, but the true test was yet to come. The turning tide. Humanity's ingenuity shines. The news of humanity's stunning victory in the Orient sector spread like wildfire across the galaxy. On countless worlds, beings of all species huddled around communication devices, eager for any scrap of information about the conflict. The Galactic Council, long seen as an unassailable power, had been bloodied by a species many had dismissed as primitive. In the halls of the Council's capital on Axis Prime, panic reigned. Emergency sessions were called, fingers were pointed, and blame was assigned. But beneath the chaos, a grim determination took hold. The humans had caught them by surprise once. It would not happen again. Grand Arbiter Zalthax, the supreme leader of the Council, addressed an assembly of the galaxy's most powerful beings. His crystalline form shimmered with barely contained energy as he spoke. "We have underestimated the humans, to our great cost," he intoned, his voice resonating through the chamber. "But we are the Galactic Council. We have ruled for millennia. We will not be undone by upstart primitives." A great cheer went up from the assembled dignitaries. Fleets were mobilized, resources were allocated, and a massive counteroffensive was launched. The Council was bringing its full might to bear, determined to crush the human rebellion once and for all. But humanity was ready. On Earth, in the sprawling underground complex known as the Hive, Dr. Aisha Okafor stood before a holographic display of the galaxy. Red dots representing Council forces were converging on human-held space from all directions. "They're coming in force," she murmured, her dark eyes narrowed in concentration. "Just as we predicted." Beside her, General Marcus Holt nodded grimly. "Then it's time to show them what else we've been working on. Initiate Project Labyrinth." Across human space, hidden installations began to power up. Massive generators hummed to life, tapping into energy sources the Council had never even theorized. In the void between stars, space itself began to ripple and distort. As the Council fleets approached human territory, their sensors suddenly went haywire. Navigation systems failed, quantum communications broke down. It was as if the very fabric of space-time had become hostile to their presence. On the Council flagship, Admiral Krita of the Nardul bellowed in frustration. "What is happening? Where are we?" His science officer, a Zorbian named Venerx, worked frantically at her console. "It's impossible to say, Admiral. Space itself seems to be changing around us. I've never seen anything like it." What the Council forces were experiencing was the result of decades of human research into the fundamental nature of the universe. Project Labyrinth was a network of devices that could alter the properties of space-time on a massive scale, creating a defensive maze that only humans knew how to navigate. As the Council fleets floundered, human ships struck from all directions. Emerging from hidden bases and pocket dimensions, they engaged the enemy with surgical precision. The lessons learned from the first battle had been well applied, and now humanity's technological edge was clearer than ever. But it wasn't just in space that humanity's ingenuity shone. On a dozen worlds, Council ground forces found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. On the jungle world of Novus Eden, a Council invasion force led by the fearsome Krelnak warriors stormed what they thought was a human colony. Instead, they found themselves facing an army of holographic defenders, indistinguishable from the real thing until the moment of impact. As the Krelnak fought phantoms, human special forces struck from hidden bunkers, using the confusion to devastating effect. In the asteroid fields of the Kuiper Belt, Mining installations thought to be easy targets turned out to be heavily armed fortresses. Council ships found themselves navigating treacherous fields of gravitational anomalies, only to be ambushed by human vessels that seemed to phase in and out of reality. But perhaps the most shocking development came in the form of humanity's newest allies. As the conflict spread, other species that had long chafed under Council rule saw an opportunity. The Arcanian Collective, known for their mastery of cybernetics, pledged their support to the human cause. The nomadic Zinfar, with their unparalleled knowledge of slipstream travel, offered their services as navigators and scouts. Humanity, it seemed, was not content to merely defend itself. They were reshaping the very political landscape of the galaxy. On the front lines, acts of individual heroism continued to turn the tide. Captain Alina Reyes, her ship Defiant now a legend among the human fleet, led a daring raid deep into Council space. Her target, a top-secret research facility where the Council was attempting to reverse-engineer human technology. All hands, prepare for quantum jump. Alina's voice rang out across the ship. We're going in hot and fast. Our job is to secure that facility and deny the enemy any chance of closing the tech gap. Failure is not an option. The Defiant materialized in the heart of the Council facility's defenses, its advanced stealth systems allowing it to slip past the outer perimeter undetected. As alarms blared and enemy ships scrambled to respond, Alina's crew moved with practiced efficiency. Boarding parties teleported directly into the research labs, securing vital data and prototypes. But it was what they found in the deepest level of the facility that would change the course of the war. Captain, Commander Chen's voice crackled over the comm, tense with excitement. You're going to want to see this. In a heavily shielded chamber, the boarding party had discovered something extraordinary, a being of pure energy, trapped within a containment field. As Alina approached, the being's form shifted and pulsed, taking on a vaguely humanoid shape. I am Zephyr, a voice echoed in their minds. The last of the precursors. The Council has kept me prisoner for eons, fearing the power I represent. But you are different. You have the potential to bring balance to the galaxy. The implications were staggering. The precursors were thought to be nothing more than legend, an ancient race that had seeded the galaxy with life before vanishing mysteriously. If this being was indeed one of them, it could provide humanity with knowledge and technology beyond their wildest dreams. As the Defiant made its escape, carrying its precious cargo, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted once again. Humanity now held not just a tactical advantage, but a key to understanding the very foundations of galactic civilization. Back on Earth, as news of the precursors' rescue spread through the upper echelons of human leadership, a sense of cautious optimism began to take hold. They had faced the Council's counterattack, and not only survived but thrived. Their technology had proven superior, their tactics more flexible, and now they had an ally that could potentially unlock the secrets of the universe itself. But even as they celebrated their victories, Earth's leaders knew that the hardest part was yet to come. They had changed the game, but the Council was vast and ancient. It would not go quietly into the night. As the conflict entered its next phase, the question on everyone's mind was simple. How far would humanity go to secure its place in the galaxy? And what would be the cost of their ascension? The tide had turned, but the true test of humanity's resolve was only just beginning. A new galactic order. Humanity's rise. The great halls of Axis Prime, once the unquestioned seat of Galactic Council power, now echoed with a different kind of energy. Representatives from 100 species filled the chamber, their conversations a cacophony of languages and dialects. But all fell silent as the doors swung open, admitting a delegation that would have been unthinkable mere months ago. Humans had come to Axis Prime, not as supplicants or defeated foes, but as equals, perhaps even as new leaders in a rapidly changing galaxy. Admiral Cara Valdez led the human delegation, her crisp uniform a stark contrast to the ornate robes of the Council species. Beside her walked Alina Reyes, now hailed as a hero across human space, and Dr. Aisha Okafor, whose scientific breakthroughs had turned the tide of war. And with them, shimmering with otherworldly energy, came Zephyr, the precursor whose liberation had shaken the very foundations of galactic society. Grand Arbiter Zalthax, his crystalline form dimmed with the weight of recent events, called the assembly to order. "We are gathered here," he intoned, his voice carrying a note of resignation, "to negotiate the terms of a new galactic order." The negotiations that followed were unlike anything the galaxy had seen in millennia. The humans, armed with superior technology and the knowledge of the precursors, could have demanded unconditional surrender. Instead, they proposed a radical restructuring of galactic governance. "We do not seek to replace one tyranny with another," Admiral Valdez declared, her voice firm but not unkind. "Humanity has tasted oppression, has known what it means to be deemed lesser. We will not inflict that fate on others." What emerged from days of intense debate was a new framework for galactic cooperation. The Galactic Council would be dissolved, replaced by a federation of equal species. Each member race would have a voice, their unique strengths and perspectives valued. It was a vision of unity and diversity, of progress through cooperation rather than domination. But not all were pleased with this new order. Hardliners among the Council species bristled at the idea of relinquishing their power. In the Outer Rim, warlords and pirates saw opportunity in the chaos of transition. The peace that followed the war was fragile, requiring constant vigilance and diplomacy to maintain. Humanity found itself at the center of this delicate balance. Their technology, now enhanced by precursor knowledge, made them the de facto peacekeepers of the galaxy. Human ships patrolled trade routes. Human scientists worked to solve problems that had plagued alien worlds for generations, and human diplomats mediated disputes between species that had been enemies for millennia. On Earth, the changes were equally profound. The planet had become a hub of interstellar commerce and cultural exchange. Alien architecture blended with human designs in soaring cities that reached for the stars. In universities and research centers, humans worked alongside the brightest minds from across the galaxy, pushing the boundaries of science and philosophy. But with great power came great responsibility, and the lessons of history were not forgotten. Safeguards were put in place to prevent any one species, including humans, from dominating the others. The Federation's constitution, drafted by a diverse committee of jurists from a dozen worlds, enshrined principles of equality, individual rights, and checks on power. As the years passed, the new galactic order began to stabilize. Trade flourished, cultural exchanges broadened perspectives, and scientific cooperation led to breakthroughs that benefited all. The Federation's first major test came when a natural disaster threatened to destroy an entire sector. Ships and aid from every member species poured in, coordinated by the Federation's rapid response teams. What could have been a catastrophe became a shining example of interstellar cooperation. Yet challenges remained. On the fringes of known space, explorers encountered evidence of other advanced civilizations, some long dead, others perhaps still active but hidden. The mystery of the precursors and their disappearance deepened, with Zephyr's knowledge providing tantalizing clues but no definitive answers. Humanity, once content with its small corner of the galaxy, now found itself leading expeditions into the unknown. The spirit of exploration that had driven their ancestors to cross oceans and reach for the moon now propelled them to the very edges of the universe. One such expedition, led by the now legendary Alina Reyes aboard the advanced exploration vessel Horizon, made a discovery that would once again reshape galactic understanding. In a distant star system, they found the remnants of a precursor installation, a vast, ring-shaped structure that dwarfed anything built by modern civilizations. As Alina's team began to unravel the secrets of the installation, they realized they were looking at something far more significant than a simple outpost. It was a gateway, a means of traveling instantly across unfathomable distances, perhaps even to other galaxies. The implications were staggering. The Federation now faced questions that would test the bonds of their newfound unity. How would this discovery be shared? Who would control access to such power? And what might they find on the other side? As news of the discovery spread, the Great Assembly of the Federation convened an emergency session. Representatives from every member species gathered to debate the path forward. The discussions were heated, the stakes unimaginably high. In the end, it was a human voice that cut through the clamor. Dr. Aisha Okafor, now serving as Earth's representative to the Federation, took the floor. "We stand at a crossroads," she began, her voice calm but filled with conviction. "Before us lies a door to the unknown, a gateway to possibilities beyond our wildest imaginations. We could choose fear, to close this door, to turn our backs on the greatest adventure our united species have ever faced. Or we could choose hope, to step forward together into a future limited only by our courage and our compassion." She paused, her gaze sweeping the assembly. Humanity's journey to the stars began with a simple question: what's out there? Today, we pose that question not just for ourselves, but for all the peoples of our galaxy. Let us answer it together. A hush fell over the chamber, broken moments later by a thunderous applause. Species that had been bitter enemies now stood united in common purpose. The gateway would be explored, its benefits shared by all, under the guidance of a joint Federation expedition. As preparations for the first journey through the gateway began, there was a palpable sense of anticipation across the galaxy. Humanity, in the span of a few short years, had gone from an isolated species on the edge of the galaxy to leaders of an interstellar federation, poised to take its first steps into a larger universe. The future was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But one thing was clear: humanity had not only found its place among the stars, it had helped forge a new destiny for all sentient beings. The galaxy would never be the same, and the greatest adventures were yet to come. As Elena Reyes stood on the bridge of the horizon, preparing to lead the first expedition through the gateway, she reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. From the first tentative steps into space to the crucible of war and the challenges of peace, humanity had proven its strength, its ingenuity, and its capacity for growth. "Ready for the next chapter?" Commander Chen asked, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Elena nodded, her eyes fixed on the shimmering portal before them. "Always," she replied. "Let's see what's out there." With that, the horizon surged forward, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of a united galaxy. The next great adventure had begun, and humanity was leading the way. The Silent Watchers. High Admiral Zextal stood before the Valaxian Empire's Grand Council, his iridescent scales gleaming under the chamber's crystalline lights. The massive holographic display behind him showed a seemingly unremarkable blue planet, the third from its yellow star. But the Admiral's 6 eyes glowed with anticipation as he addressed the assembled dignitaries. "Distinguished members of the Council, I present to you our next conquest. Sol 3, known to its inhabitants as Earth." Zextal's voice resonated through the chamber. "Our long-range probes have confirmed it's a Class 4 civilization, barely capable of reaching their own moon. They still fight among themselves over primitive resources and territory." The council members chittered among themselves, their jeweled robes rustling as they shifted in their gravity-suspended thrones. First Speaker Vasuri raised a delicate tendril, silencing the chamber. "What makes this world worthy of our attention, Admiral? The Empire has greater concerns than some backwater planet." Zextal's facial membranes pulsed with excitement as he manipulated the holographic controls. The image zoomed in, showing Earth's cities, industries, and military installations. "Raw materials, honored Speaker. Their world is rich in rare elements we need for our quantum drives. More importantly, their population of 8 billion represents an enormous workforce for our processing facilities." He continued, displaying graphs and charts. "Their military technology is laughably primitive. Their most advanced weapons use chemical propellants and crude nuclear fission. Their space presence consists of primitive satellites and a small orbital station. One Valaxian battle cruiser could subdue their entire planet. The council members trilled in amusement at the humans' perceived weakness. Second Speaker Mordrath leaned forward, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light. What of their information networks? Have they detected our probes? Their detection systems are basic at best, Zextal replied confidently. They use simple radio waves and optical telescopes. Our stealth technology is centuries beyond their capability to detect. They spend more resources on entertainment and social media than space exploration or defense. First Speaker Vasuri rose, her ceremonial wings extending. Very well. Admiral, you may proceed with the conquest. How many ships do you require? A single battle group will suffice, honored Speaker. 300 ships should secure the planet within their standard week. I've already prepared the occupation protocols and resource extraction schedules. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that didn't officially exist, Director Sarah Chen watched the entire exchange with a grim smile. The quantum monitoring system had perfectly captured every word and gesture from the Valaxian Council chamber, despite it being 50 light-years away. Send the recording to the Defense Council, she instructed her AI assistant. Initiate Protocol Omega-7. Throughout the solar system, humanity's true defensive grid hummed to life. Quantum sensors disguised as debris tracked the Valaxian probe fleet. Weapon platforms hidden in asteroid shells powered up their dark matter cannons. The moon's far side, thought to be a barren wasteland, unveiled vast hangars containing Earth's real space fleet. In her office, Chen opened a secure channel to the United Earth Defense Council. The faces of military and civilian leaders appeared on her quantum-encrypted display. Ladies and gentlemen, the Valaxians have taken the bait. They've completely bought our technological camouflage. General Marcus Wong, commander of Earth's Space Force, nodded in satisfaction. 300 ships. That's barely a tenth of our fleet. Should we reveal ourselves now? No, Chen replied, pulling up the latest intelligence. Let them come. Let them think they're the hunters. Operation Hidden Sword remains as planned. We've spent 50 years preparing for this moment, building our strength while appearing weak. Let's not waste the opportunity. The council members agreed. Earth had discovered the Valaxian Empire's existence centuries ago, when their first quantum sensors detected faster-than-light travel in nearby space. Since then, humanity had carefully hidden its true technological progress, presenting a false face to the galaxy while secretly advancing far beyond what the Valaxians could imagine. Chen walked to the window of her underground office, looking at the holographic projection of Earth's real defensive capabilities. Layers of quantum shields surrounded the planet, invisible to conventional sensors. Swarms of AI-controlled microsatellites waited in stealth mode. Every human city had defensive systems that could repel orbital bombardment. Begin evacuation drills under the guise of natural disaster preparation, she ordered. Maintain our primitive appearance. Let them think their stealth technology is working. When they arrive, she smiled, thinking of the shock the Valaxians would experience when they discovered the truth. When they arrive, they'll learn why humanity has survived every extinction-level event our planet has thrown at us. In space, a Valaxian probe passed by what appeared to be a simple communications satellite. It didn't detect the quantum sensors tracking its every move, didn't notice the advanced AI analyzing its technology. Humanity watched and waited, ready to teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating Earth. The trap was set. Now they just had to wait for the Valaxians to spring it. First contact deception. The United Nations General Assembly buzzed with artificial panic. World leaders had practiced this moment for decades, but today's performance had to be perfect. On the massive screens above the assembly hall, a Valaxian warship hung in orbit, its crystalline hull gleaming in Earth's sunlight. Ambassador James Chen, son of Director Sarah Chen, adjusted his deliberately outdated tie and tried to look appropriately terrified. The Valaxian diplomatic party would arrive any minute, and humanity's greatest act of deception would face its critical test. Remember, His mother's voice whispered through his quantum neural implant, completely undetectable to Valaxian sensors. They expect us to be amazed by their basic holographic technology. Look impressed, but not too impressed. We're primitive, not stupid. The chamber doors opened. Admiral Zextal led a delegation of Valaxian officials into the hall, their environmental suits far bulkier than they needed to be, a deliberate show of technological superiority. James suppressed a smile, knowing that humans had mastered personal atmospheric manipulation centuries ago. People of Earth, Zextal's voice boomed through their translation devices. We come in peace, representing the mighty Valaxian Empire. A hologram materialized above them, showing the Empire's vast territory. The human delegates gasped on cue, right on schedule. James stepped forward, playing his role perfectly. Distinguished visitors, we are honored by your presence. Though your arrival has caused some panic among our people, we hope to establish peaceful relations. His hand shook slightly, a masterful touch of acting that didn't go unnoticed by the Valaxian admiral. Zextal's facial membranes rippled with barely concealed contempt. We have observed your world for some time. Your civilization shows promise, despite its primitive state. The Empire offers you protection and guidance. In exchange, we seek only minimal resource rights and trade agreements. In hidden bunkers across the planet, Earth's real leaders watched the exchange through quantum feeds. General Wong's voice came through James's neural link. They're scanning us with their full sensor suite. Countermeasures are holding. They're seeing exactly what we want them to see. The Valaxian delegation proceeded with their presentation, displaying technological wonders that would have amazed humanity 3 centuries ago. James and the other human representatives maintained their facade of wide-eyed wonder, while subtle quantum sensors analyzed every piece of Valaxian technology for weaknesses. As a gesture of goodwill, Zextal announced, "We offer you this gift." A small device materialized in the center of the chamber, a basic energy generator capable of powering one of your small cities. James approached the device with carefully staged caution. The quantum sensors in his brain noted that it was barely more advanced than the public power systems humanity pretended to use. In reality, Earth's cities ran on zero-point energy and dark matter reactors. "This is incredible," James stammered, using every bit of his diplomatic training. "But surely such advanced technology comes with a price." First Speaker Vashuri stepped forward, her jeweled robes catching the light. "Merely your cooperation, dear primitives. We will guide your species into the galactic community. Under our protection, of course." In her underground command center, Director Chen watched the Valaxian biosignatures through quantum sensors. Every indication of deception, every subtle sign of aggression, was noted and analyzed. "They'll wait 3 of our days," she informed the Defense Council. "Standard Empire protocol for Class 4 civilizations. Then they'll demand our surrender, claiming it's for our own protection." "All defense systems are ready," General Wong reported. "The lunar fleet is in position, cloaked by quantum fields. The Mars defense grid is operational. Should we begin evacuating major cities?" "No," Chen decided. "That might tip our hand. The underground shelters can handle the civilian population in minutes once the attack begins. Let them think we're completely vulnerable." Back in the assembly hall, James listened to Zextal's grand promises of technological advancement and protection, noting every hidden threat, every carefully worded demand. The Valaxians' confidence was absolute. They had no idea they were walking into humanity's carefully laid trap. "We will return in 3 days," Zextal announced as the delegation prepared to leave. "We trust you will make the wise choice for your species' future." James bowed slightly, the perfect picture of a primitive diplomat overwhelmed by advanced aliens. "We will convey your generous offer to our world's leaders. Though, if I may ask," he allowed a trace of fear to enter his voice, "what happens if some nations refuse?" Zextal's facial membranes tightened, a Valaxian smile that carried volumes of menace. "For your planet's own good, we would be forced to," Insist. But I'm sure it won't come to that. You seem intelligent enough to recognize superior power when you see it. As the Valaxians departed, James maintained his worried expression until their ships broke orbit. Only then did he allow himself a small smile. In 3 days, the Valaxian Empire would learn what superior power truly meant. The trap was nearly ready to spring. The Emperor's Gambit. Admiral Zextal stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crystal Dominion, watching Earth grow larger on the main display. 3 days had passed, and as expected, the Primitives' response had been chaotic and disorganized. Some nations demanded more time. Others offered immediate surrender, while a few made futile threats. Perfect, he purred to his command staff. Launch the intimidation protocol. 300 Valaxian warships shimmered into view around Earth's orbit, their weapons charged for display. On the planet below, news channels broadcast the sight of alien ships filling the sky. Right on schedule, Earth's primitive militaries launched their aircraft and missiles, exactly as the invasion simulations had predicted. Disable their orbital satellites, Zextal ordered. Let them see how helpless they truly are. Energy beams lanced out from the Valaxian fleet, targeting Earth's satellite network. But at the precise moment they fired, something impossible happened. The beams struck an invisible barrier and dissipated harmlessly. What? Zextal's membranes quivered in confusion. Scan that region of space. Before his crew could respond, a calm human voice filled every communication channel on every Valaxian ship. Director Chen's tone carried centuries of carefully controlled amusement. Admiral Zextal, I must thank you for being so predictable. You've positioned your fleet exactly where we wanted it. The space around the Valaxian ships shimmered. Massive structures appeared, emerging from perfect quantum camouflage. Weapon platforms larger than cities. Defense stations that dwarf the largest Valaxian vessels. And behind Earth's moon, rising like a mechanical leviathan, humanity's true fleet. Impossible. Zextal's scales paled. Their technology level. This is deception. No deception, Admiral. Just patience. Chen's voice remained calm. We detected your empire's expansion 300 years ago. Since then, we've been preparing, advancing our technology in secret while maintaining a carefully crafted primitive facade. On the Crystal Dominion's bridge, warning signals screamed as the ship's sensors finally revealed the truth. Earth was surrounded by layered quantum shields far more advanced than anything in the Valaxian arsenal. What they had thought were simple satellites were actually nodes in a vast defensive network. Your invasion fleet is surrounded, Chen continued. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your faster-than-light drives have been locked by our quantum fields. We are jamming your communications with your empire. You have one chance to surrender. Zextal's pride overrode his judgment. The Valaxian Empire does not surrender to primitives. All ships, open fire. The Valaxian fleet launched its full arsenal, planet-cracking weapons, antimatter torpedoes, quantum disruptors. Their most powerful weapons struck Earth's shields and faded like ripples in a pond. As you wish. Chen's voice carried a note of finality. General Wang, you may proceed. Space itself seemed to twist. Dark matter beams lanced out from Earth's defensive grid, passing through the Valaxian shields as if they didn't exist. 20 ships vanished in the first second. 50 more in the next. Quantum torpedoes phased through hull plating, detonating inside engine cores. On the Crystal Dominion's bridge, Zextal watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically dismantled by weapons he couldn't understand. Fall back. Emergency retreat. Your faster-than-light drives are offline, Chen reminded him. You're not going anywhere. This is the price of arrogance. Admiral, 3 centuries of watching your empire consume primitive worlds. We could have revealed ourselves at any time, but we wanted to be certain. Certain that you would never threaten another developing civilization. The last Valaxian ship exploded in a burst of quantum energy, leaving only the Crystal Dominion intact. Earth's true fleet emerged from the lunar shadow. Thousands of ships that made the Valaxian vessels look like toys. Now, Admiral, Chen's voice carried the weight of centuries. Let's discuss the terms of your empire's surrender. Your leaders will want to hear about the primitive world that destroyed their finest fleet without losing a single ship. As Zextal stared at the overwhelming power arrayed against him, he finally understood. His empire hadn't been the hunter. They had been the prey all along. Counterattack. The Imperial Palace on Valaxia Prime shook with another impact. Through the crystalline windows, First Speaker Vasuri watched as another defense platform fell from orbit, destroyed by weapons that seemed to ignore the laws of physics themselves. How? She whispered, her ceremonial wings drooping. How did we not see this coming? The emergency council chamber was chaos. Representatives from across the empire watched in horror as reports flooded in. Human ships had appeared simultaneously at every major Valaxian military installation across 50 star systems. Their quantum drives made faster-than-light travel look primitive, allowing them to strike anywhere at will. Another fleet lost in the Centauri sector. An aide reported, his scales pale with fear. The humans, they're not even bothering to destroy our ships anymore. They're simply shutting them down and teleporting the crews to detention centers on various planets. Director Chen's image appeared above the council table, a courtesy call that demonstrated just how helpless the mighty Valaxian Empire had become. First Speaker, your military assets have been neutralized across all major systems. We're now moving to Phase 2. Phase 2. Vasuri felt a chill despite her environmental controls. What more could you want? Justice, Chen replied simply. Our quantum archives have recorded every civilization your empire has subjugated over the last millennium. Every species forced into servitude. Every world stripped of resources. Every culture destroyed in the name of imperial progress. As she spoke, human ships across Valaxian space began broadcasting. Not threats or demands, but evidence. Centuries of imperial atrocities, recorded by hidden quantum sensors that the Valaxians had never detected. The broadcasts went everywhere, to every conquered world, every subjugated species, every corner of the empire. We could have stopped you centuries ago, Chen continued, but we needed to understand the full scope of your empire's actions. We needed evidence that even your own people couldn't deny, and we needed to be ready to protect those you've oppressed when the truth finally came out. In orbit around Valaxia Prime, the human flagship Genesis revealed itself. The vessel was the size of a small moon, powered by technologies that made Valaxian science look like children's toys. Its quantum sensors could detect a single conversation from light years away. Its computational systems could simulate entire civilizations. Your empire ends today, Chen declared, but not through destruction. That would make us no better than you. Instead, we're going to help your victims rebuild. Every species you've conquered will be offered independence and protection under Earth's guidance. Vasuri watched helplessly as human ships across the Empire began dismantling the Valaxians' power structure. Their quantum technology easily bypassed every security system, every defense, every failsafe. But they weren't destroying. They were liberating. Your mining operations on conquered worlds. Shut down. Your slave labor camps. Empty. Your subject species are being freed as we speak, with our ships ensuring no retribution from your forces. Rebellion erupted across the Empire as the subjugated species realized their oppressors were powerless. But where the Valaxians expected violence and revenge, they found something else. Human peacekeepers appeared everywhere, preventing bloodshed, ensuring orderly transitions of power. We've had 3 centuries to plan this, Chen explained. We've prepared infrastructure, governments in exile, economic systems to prevent collapse. Unlike your empire, we believe in lifting civilizations up, not grinding them down. In the council chamber, a junior member finally asked the question everyone feared. What will happen to us? Chen's expression softened slightly. Your worlds will retain their independence, but under restrictions. Your military will be disbanded. Your technology will be limited until you demonstrate peaceful intentions, and you will pay reparations to the worlds you've destroyed, not in resources or money, but in aid and assistance, helping rebuild what you once tore down. As if to demonstrate their complete control, the humans activated their final surprise. Quantum fields across Valaxian space permanently disabled their warship's weapons, and faster-than-light drives. 3 centuries of preparation had allowed Earth to create a foolproof system of technological containment. A new age begins today, Chen concluded. Earth will help establish a federation of free worlds where every species can develop without fear of conquest. Your empire's fall will mark the rise of something better. A galactic community based on cooperation rather than subjugation. The first speaker, looking at the irrefutable evidence of her empire's crimes, finally understood. Earth hadn't just defeated them militarily, they had outmaneuvered them completely. The humans had spent centuries building not just weapons, but solutions. The age of empire was over. The age of humanity had begun. A new dawn. 5 years after the fall of the Valaxian Empire, the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on Earth hosted representatives from over 1,000 formerly subjugated species. The massive chamber, built with quantum architecture that could adapt to any alien biology, hummed with the voices of civilization rebuilding itself. Director Chen, now serving as Earth's representative to the Galactic Federation, watched the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. On the chamber floor, a former Valaxian slave species was presenting evidence of their successful transition to self-governance. Behind them, holographic displays showed their restored homeworld, once a strip-mined wasteland, now flourishing under recovered technology. The Human Guidance Program has exceeded all expectations, the alien delegate announced, their bioluminescent patterns showing joy. Our people are free, our world is healing, and our children will know a future without chains. In the observer's gallery, Admiral Zextal, now serving as a junior diplomatic aide in the Valaxian delegation, watched with a mixture of shame and amazement. The humans had kept their word. Instead of destroying the Valaxians, they had forced them to become better. Every Valaxian now served mandatory terms, helping rebuild the worlds their empire had destroyed. The changes went far beyond politics. Humanity had begun carefully sharing their technology, but with safeguards and ethics protocols built in. Quantum healing centers cured diseases that had plagued alien species for millennia. Sustainable energy systems ended resource wars. Advanced agricultural techniques eliminated famine. We've received another petition, James Chen reported to his mother during a break in proceedings. 3 more developmental civilizations have been detected at the edge of known space. They're requesting human protection to ensure their independent evolution. Director Chen nodded, remembering Earth's own long vigil. Assign monitoring stations and cloaked satellites. Let them develop naturally, but make sure no one interferes. We'll be the guardians we wished we'd had. The assembly reconvened to discuss the next phase of galactic reconstruction. The former empire was transforming into a network of cooperative worlds. Trade routes once used for resource exploitation now carried aid and cultural exchange. Former slave soldiers became peacekeepers, their weapons replaced with tools for building. But humanity's greatest achievement wasn't technological, it was philosophical. They had proven that advancement didn't require conquest, that power didn't demand domination. Earth's example showed that a civilization could be both mighty and merciful. The galaxy stands at a crossroads. Director Chen addressed the assembly. The age of empires is over. But our work is just beginning. Each of your species brings unique perspectives, unique solutions. Together, we can build something unprecedented, a true community of worlds. As she spoke, quantum sensors at the edge of known space detected signals from other galactic civilizations, drawn by news of the Valaxian Empire's transformation. Some came with peaceful intentions, others perhaps hoping to fill the power vacuum. But they all found the same thing, a protected region of space where advancement meant cooperation, not conquest. We hid our light for centuries, Chen concluded, watching and waiting. Now we step forward not as conquerors or rulers, but as guides. The stars belong to all of us, and together we will make them shine brighter than ever. In orbit above Earth, the Genesis maintained its vigilant watch. But its quantum weapons were silent. Its vast power turned to creation rather than destruction. Human ships patrolled trade routes not to control them, but to keep them free. Research stations studied the mysteries of the universe not for military advantage, but for the benefit of all. The Valaxian Empire had sought to rule the galaxy through force. Instead, they had inadvertently helped create something far more powerful, a federation of free worlds, protected by humans who had learned through centuries of patience that true strength lies not in the power to destroy, but in the wisdom to protect and nurture. A new age had dawned, and its light would reach far beyond the stars themselves.